All right, it is 5:30, and we're going to go ahead and get started on time. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our September 18th, 2025 gathering of the Zoning Advisory Committee. So, calling us to order on item 1.01, which brings us to item 1.02, the roll call.
Polly Boardman. No. Shannon Coley here. Adrian Connolly, she's not coming. Melissa Cook Sanford. Wow. Kristen DeHaan.
Here.
Cami Elquist Leray.
Here.
Ryan Henderson. Chris Knox.
Here.
Mia Mansfield.
Present.
Adriana Publico.
Here.
Tyler Rogers.
Here.
Katie Schneider.
Here.
I believe we have a quorum.
Awesome. Thank you. And just for the record and for the rest of the committee to know, Eddie Hirschman resigned from ZAC for professional reasons. So just a heads up. So he sent his letter to me and to staff. Just want to make everyone aware of that. Okay. Just as a reminder to the folks that are joining us this evening from the public, we will be having two primary agenda items that will be possible for action. And if you are here to submit public comment, I want to make sure that you will fill out a green card. Shannon, where are they? They are right there at the entrance. If you haven't seen one, but just please fill out a green card and then bring it over to Shannon over here, and we will go through those. Please note which agenda item you want to speak for. Okay. Digging into the core of tonight's agenda. 2.01, approval of the minutes of the August 21st, 2025 meeting of the Zoning Advisory Committee, and this is for possible action. Are there any comments or concerns to the meeting minutes? If not, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve. Cami Leray for the record.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Kristen DeHaan, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for the approval of the meeting minutes of August 21st, 2025 for the meeting of the Zoning Advisory Committee. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed say nay. It passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us swiftly to item 2.02. Presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding proposed enrollment zone adjustments for the 2027-28 school year, potentially impacting the following schools: Meeting-Mathews Elementary School, Kate Smith Elementary School, Rita Cannon Elementary School, Agnes Risley Elementary School, Lewis Allen Elementary School, Fred W. Trainer Middle School, Sparks Middle School, Proctor R. Hug High School, and Sparks High School. And this is an item for possible action, which means we can deliberate this evening and possibly take action. And I think a reminder to all of the committee as well as folks, we do have, I think, interpretation services going on. So to the extent that we can speak slowly and clearly, that usually helps our staff. Thank you so much. We'll hand it over to staff for a presentation.
Hi, folks. Thanks very much for your time tonight. Brett Rodella, long-range school planner with the district. We're here to talk about dynamics surrounding Meeting-Mathews. This presentation includes some housekeeping and context items, our options review that we looked at last month, and some questions and discussion. So our topic purpose, it's based in the Mathews modernization that's going to open in fall of 2027. In addition to that is some incontiguous enrollment boundary of Mathews that's north of McCarran that we find is appropriate for rezoning to the neighborhood to the north. And I also want to take this time as an opportunity to talk a little bit about Kate Smith, as Kate Smith is probably the most substantial rezoning piece of the presentation and this agenda item. The district has submitted or published notice to the Reno Gazette-Journal that the repurposing of Kate Smith is going to be addressed by the Board of Trustees at their regular meeting next Tuesday. In addition to that, Connect Eds have gone out to the entire Kate Smith enrollment community and staff. A little bit more details on the expectation of the repurpose is that, just to give you a little more context, is that Kate Smith's capacity is about 85% smaller than the capacity of our current ed spec schools, one of which is going to be Matthews once it finalizes its modernization. In addition to that, Kate Smith's property parcel is 100% smaller than our new ed spec schools. So when it comes to the potential of modernizing Kate Smith, it's not a good candidate for it by pretty much every qualification there is. It's the smallest school in Truckee Meadows. So I just want to add that context to tonight's discussion as we move forward. Question?
Cammy LaRae for the record. Could you please define ed spec? I'm sure that, I can assume, but
Sure. I can do my best. Tammy might do a better job, but essentially the ed spec is a document collaborated by educators, facilities staff, and others throughout the district, approved by the board that designates the size for which we build our schools, in this current day and age. And it's informed by current educational practices, expectations in terms of like STEM labs and computer labs, that kind of hub spaces, things like this. So when it comes to our newer facilities, there's a lot more accommodations when it comes to all of that mentioned. Review of our admin reg 7107 as it pertains to our legacy grades, 5th, 8th, and 12th. Just as a note, when these changes go into effect in the 27-28 school year, any students impacted that are at that time in the 5th, 8th, or 12th grade will receive legacy consideration to remain at the school that they've previously attended. So if they're impacted by zoning, they can stay at their current school. And that is set to impact current 3rd, 5th, and 10th graders.
Brett, shouldn't that be 3rd, 6th, and 10th if we're looking at 2 years ahead?
6, 7. Yeah, that's correct. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Guidance from Admin Reg 7107, our guiding principles. 1, to keep subdivisions and small neighborhood units in the same attendance zone to the extent possible. We want to assign students to the closest school to the extent possible. Create compact attendance zones with few or no island areas. Include target enrollments that allow for growth and anticipated changing demographics. Comply with feeder patterns to the extent possible. And lastly, avoid placing a transportation burden on identifiable diversity subgroups. In review, also from last month, we're going to discuss Sparks Middle School is going to receive a reconstruction that is estimated to open in the fall of 2029. This is expected to absorb a significant amount, a majority of, if not the entirety of Trainer Middle School's current enrollment boundary. The key point here is that any options that impact the middle school level in tonight's presentation, including 1 or 1B, if there's any changes at the middle school level, there's a very high degree of likelihood, almost certainty, that they'll be re-impacted upon the opening of that Sparks Middle School reconstruction. So what that means is if they change zones in 2027, it's likely they're going to be rezoned in 2029 again. So just planting that seed. This slide also details that as a result of the PK8 study that the board approved in January of this year, that Trainer Middle School is set to become a K-5 facility. It's going to be repurposed from a middle school through to an elementary school, I think in the time frame of 2031. And then this last point is on surrounding elementary schools of Matthews. We expect at that time of the Sparks Middle School reconstruction opening to be looking at East Cannon Elementary and possibly some other adjacent elementary schools to feed into Matthews. But that remains to be seen in the future.
Brett, Tyler Rogers, just to understand the long-term point you're trying to make here is that
Yep.
if trainers going away, the long-term goal is to feed that into an expanded Sparks Middle School?
Yeah, that's a point, and also to let you know that should any changes that you make or recommend that impact middle school level, such as some of, like Kate Smith is zoned for Sparks Middle School right now. If you aligned Kate Smith to feed into Trainer as Mathews feeds into Trainer, the likelihood that Mathews, those Kate Smith kids, return back to Sparks is darn near certain. So that's really the key point here. And that logic is what has informed our staff recommendation on these options.
Brett, are there any options that do that?
There's two options that do that, 1 and 1B, and you'll see that our staff recommendation is neither of those. So
Thanks.
you're welcome. So quick review of our FMP timeline, our facilities modernization plan timeline, and related facilities. We'll walk through these just so we touch base on them. But as you can see, Mathews receives a modernization that is set to open in the fall of 2027. Kate Smith to be repurposed in the school year 27-28. That Sparks Middle School reconstruction in fall 2029. Risley and Cannon receive trade-ups, meaning they're no longer going to operate in their existing facilities in 2030 and 31 respectively. That Trainer Middle School reconstruction set to occur in fall 2031 that turns it into an elementary school. And then the bottom three, Allen, Bennett, and Sun Valley, these are all three Sun Valley schools. And you can see the corresponding timeline of their modernizations and reconstruction. The main point of these is that the district is recommending that we rezone the North Mathews enrollment boundary that's north of McCarran into Allen Elementary School. The reason I'm pointing these three schools out is that there's gonna be some very serious FMP attention to these schools in this area in the 2030 timeframe. So if there are any enrollment concerns, they're going to be addressed in the not too distant future once they're touched by the FMP.
Brett, really quick, the trade-up again, wouldn't that be repurpose?
It could be. It could also mean using the facility for a non-WCSD, however, other community type of service.
So you're just not sure how it's going to be used?
Yeah, all that is to be determined, into the future. Yep.
But they won't be open as elementary schools?
That's correct. As the current existing facilities, they will no longer be in use as they are today.
And Brett, while we're looking at the map, what happens to Duncan next to Trainer?
Duncan receives trade up, as far as I remember, as far as I recall. The idea is that Duncan will, like Trainer will absorb Duncan, essentially, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
I don't know specifically if Duncan is a trade up or a reconstruction or what in the FMP, but consider Duncan moving into the Trainer facility.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Cool. Oh, so there was a request that we include our special programs outline at the relevant schools. We've outlined Allen, Mathews, and Kate Smith on this slide. And this is accounted for in terms of total classrooms. So this is programs using classrooms within each of these facilities. In parentheses there, it shows how many of those classrooms are in portables. And in the far right column shows the programs that are using, those classrooms.
So while we're looking at special programs, is there, if Kate Smith is getting repurposed, what's the plan for the special programs there?
The expectation would be if the populations at Kate Smith that would move into Mathews require those special programs, like the numbers of students, that special program would follow into Mathews. However, if the populations do not necessitate that extra program, it's likely that program would not come over.
Kristen DeHaan for the record. So Kate Smith has a pre-K and so does Matthews. So I can almost guarantee that both of those right now are at capacity and probably will continue to be at capacity. So there will be one of those portable, or there will be a new portable at Matthews for the other
Yeah,
EC?
with the FMP, we're eliminating portables at Matthews. And
Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. So when we planned the modernization at Matthews, we have planned for additions of spaces for any of the options that are in here. So we know that they are heavy with pre-K and programs, and that's why we are planning and actually have started construction on a 6-classroom addition here.
I can say a little more that the Matthews expansion was designed intentionally to bring the entirety of Kate Smith into this building, so including pre-K. As far as transportation dynamics go with these options, I'm just going to kind of summarize using the map. That blue section that is the North Matthews we're recommending into Allen would receive a bus, a transfer of service. The green section, which is Matthews, south of McCarran, adjacent to Cannon, those kids would be in the walk zone to Cannon. Currently, they are bused to Matthews. And then the orange and red polygons, as a result of the arterial nature of El Rancho, Safe Routes to School has determined that a bus across El Rancho is appropriate for that neighborhood. I've studied this stretch of road a little bit as a result of doing this. I would say that the walk friendliness of crossing El Rancho is fair, given that there's a school zone there and pedestrian activated rapid flasher beacons. Families could very easily cross it. I would say 5th graders probably can, maybe 4th graders. Just kind of giving you a rough idea of my interpretation on that.
Kristen DeHaan for the record again. So I'm looking at that green section that would be going to that's the one that would be going to Cannon instead of Matthews.
That's correct.
Cannon is closing to be trade up. So then would they go back to Matthews?
They'll go...
Or to Trainer, because it looks right from here, it looks like Matthews is closer than Trainer.
Remember in the discussion about the Sparks Middle School reconstruction, there was a bullet point about in the future we're going to entertain putting an East Cannon into Matthews around the time of that reconstruction. If I had a magic wand, I would say that they're most suitable geographically to zone into Matthews, and therefore would end up back in Matthews. Okay, and then to get into our review of elementary options, as an overview, option 1 moves middle school boundaries with the elementary school boundaries that we're recommending, and this causes split feeding middle schools. Option 1A gives no moves to middle school and high school, which results in split feeding elementary schools. And I'm just going to break it that that's our staff recommendation at this time to prevent double rezoning of these areas at the secondary level. Option 1B moves middle school and high school boundaries with elementary schools, which results in no split feeding at any level, which is ideal anywhere we can make it. But we do our best across all categories to come to the best solution. So you might all remember this slide from last month. It breaks down total students impacted through these, and this is of current enrollments. The first number indicating students that are zoned and enrolled in the school that they're zoned for, and the second number being total zoned, if that's fair. There was an inquiry about where the out-of-zone students are attending for a breakdown of that, which has been provided in the white boxes, as you can see on this slide. And really, there's no significant take-homes as far as those out-of-zone students go. I think the most significant is 29% of that North Matthews zone is going to Coral Academy, as much as we'd like those kids in WCSD schools. But that's the most significant out-of-zone factor of these statistics.
Chris Knox, I have a quick question. Just to confirm, the 15 students at any time could return to WCSD if they desired?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. All right, and to address our options, this is the option that moves middle school boundaries with elementary school. We've posted on here incongruencies with your guiding regulations and found that incongruency on this at the high school level is number 5, which pertains to alignment of feeder patterns. In other words, middle schools become split feeders. Same elementary school moves as we've been reviewing, and that will be for the next 2 options. This is the before and after of the geography changes. That black line running down the middle of Matthews indicates the hug on the west and Sparks on the east boundary, and it shows that that Matthews zone would split at the high school level. Trainer Middle School would move east. Desert Skies in the north moves south to align with McCarran Boulevard. And the brush fire charts or student enrollment projections for those indicate that space is not an issue at any of these schools.
I think they need a new name from brush fire. Maybe
Yeah, we
ice-
might have to do
icy.
that. Something reflective of declining enrollments, maybe. I hate saying that, but maybe. I really don't have key points to provide you on these. Maybe I'll try to do a better job of that, but the main take home is that we have room across the board for these changes. Option 1A, which is our staff recommendation, includes no changes at the secondary level. We are noting that incongruency with our guiding principles with that number 5 of alignment of feeder patterns is kind of out of alignment at the middle school and high school level with this, but all of that will be addressed upon the reconstruction of Sparks Middle School. You know, we'll probably visit that in the 2027 or 2028 school year. A look at the geography of that.
So sorry, Brett, what's the main difference between 1 and 1A? It's the pink line?
Yeah, the difference is that Trainer is not moving here. The Trainer Sparks pink line is not moving here.
Okay.
Where it did move east in the first option. Also, Desert Skies does not move here, which, you know, actually, frankly, that's something we should probably catch, because that, should you make the recommendation to zone that North Matthews into Allen, that is an alignment that should be made at the secondary level. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
To Desert Skies.
To Desert Skies.
Yeah.
So basically,
Yeah.
the image on the right, you're saying that purple line should move down to McCarran?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't have a pointer. You see the purple line at the top? That line would move down to the white line below it. Thanks. Yeah.
And we can just amend that as a committee, but so we're all clear with what we're talking about.
That would change from Trainer to Desert Skies Middle School.
And in the future, would that
stay Desert Skies, or could it move to Sparks? Because it does look awfully close to Sparks.
It would most appropriately probably be aligned with Desert Skies, as that neighborhood, everything north of McCarran feeds it up to Desert Skies.
Even if it's a little bit longer distance?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to revisit that, in a couple years with that Sparks Middle School reconstruction, that could certainly be done. I don't think the school district would make that argument or advise it. Especially given that, especially if you move on the North Matthews to Allen piece, because we want to keep elementary schools, schoolers with their middle school peers as much as we can.
Kristen DeHaan again, sorry. I'm trying to understand, with option 1, we have the incongruency of number 5
Yeah.
with just the high school level.
Correct.
And with the recommendation, it's number 5 with middle school and high school.
That's correct, because it doesn't, option 1A does not move middle school or high school boundaries, where option 1 does move middle school boundaries.
But you're now saying that we should move the middle school boundary.
For
Correct.
that
For that one.
northern boundary, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't catch that, but yeah, that's part of this process, I think.
Brett, moving on to the blizzard chart.
Yeah.
Nothing changed in Desert Skies at all. And there's got to be a change if Allen's, if,
Well, in this one, it wasn't modeled to change. So what we can do is we can look back at option 1 to see what the numbers look like for Desert Skies as a result of that move, if that makes sense. Do you want me to move to that now, or? Okay. Well, let's go to option 1, because this reflects the change at Desert Skies. So in the 10-year horizon, you're looking at an increase of about 124 kids. And operating at, what is that, 70%. So,
and that includes if, okay, having Allen, and then what was there a future one going to Allen? No.
all options will include that North Matthews piece to Allen.
So I think that's an important point. As we're thinking and studying the movement of that line, option 1A actually supplies us the forecasting data of what would happen at Desert Springs.
Desert Skies, yeah.
Desert Skies,
Yeah.
sorry. And does Desert Skies feed into HUG?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our last option is option 1B, which includes moves at the middle school and high school level. We see no incongruencies with our guiding principles, and same geometries we're dealing with. This is the before and after. As you can see, all changes align at all levels, which is ideal. However, again, given that we're expecting that Sparks Middle School reconstruction, it's just not something that's necessary.
How, Shannon Coley,
Yeah.
for the record, how could that be possible if there's no incongruencies, if you're sending those kids in the blue up to Allen and Allen goes to Desert Skies?
What do you mean? Like, what would you find as the incongruency there?
And they'll be going back to HUG?
They'll go to HUG, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, thanks.
A look at those student enrollment projections. And a final staff recommendation. And due to that anticipated Sparks Middle School reconstruction, we're recommending 1A. However, I would add an addendum that the Matthews, that North Matthews to Allen piece, should also coincide with a Trainer Middle School to Desert Skies piece. And those students will remain at Hug High School as they currently attend.
Thank you, Brett, for taking our questions along the way as well. I think that's sort of more productive. Other questions of Brett before we take public comment?
Yes, Katie Schneider for the record. I have a question on the blue sort of North Matthews to Allen. It's present in all options. It's basically the same. And this, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to learn. I guess my question is, if I simply state it, what are do we feel like this is a good academic impact for a student? I can see how on a map it looks nice
Sure.
and it's clean.
Yeah.
But my concern is that, yes, this meets most of Admin Reg 7107, and that's great. But could there be a downstream impact academically that we would be disappointed that we made? So for example, if I look at Matthews and the Nevada Department of Education Accountability Report, which is public, I think they're at 35% ELA, and we'd be sending them to Allen, which is maybe at 25%. I know it's a year late, or the data's a year old, but I'm just wondering, is that the right decision for the students and the staff? And while, again, I can see on the map, it probably makes sense, but
Sure.
does it make sense right now? Are we going to tax an overtax system?
I
and feel
think
that?
what I'd say to that is that programming would follow the student populations and the needs of that population. So, if there were students that made that move that required ELA support, that the school district would do everything they could to provide that. It would be treated as any other demographic dynamic at any other school, if that's fair.
Yeah, I understand. And I think more of a question maybe for the broader committee to deliberate is, are we setting the precedent that the way that it looks on a map supersedes the academic impact? And would we then apply that across the whole county to make the maps look nice? Because to your point, the brush fire charts are all blue. So it's really disruptive to move a family unless absolutely necessary. And like I said, I'm just worried about downstream impacts.
I think it's something the committee can deliberate on. Any other questions for Brett?
Cami LeRae for the record. Could you just give me a little bit of insight into, because just looking at the map and seeing where these kids would have to go, across the majority of Sparks, past McCarran, further north to get into Allen, when there seems with the brush chart that potentially why do they have to go so far up? Why do they have to travel so far? Could you just give me a little bit of insight into that?
Yeah, McCarran is a huge kind of dividing line between neighborhoods. And that's, when we do this work, it's something that sticks out, when it comes to drawing lines. And in addition to that, one of the guiding principles has to do with not creating island feeder zones, which this one is an absolute example of. So, I think the district has a responsibility to practice good geospatial coherence in its service to the community. And I think with that consideration, this move falls in line with that. It treats our obvious divider lines and sort of geographic features of the community in a way that seems appropriate per our interpretation.
I saw one more light down there. Are we good on questions for Brett?
I wanted to ask about transportation, Mia Mansfield for the record. It looks to me, when we talk about moving the students up to Lois Allen, that they would be traveling less or a shorter distance in a bus.
Yeah,
and not over McCarran.
I didn't look at the door-to-door distance, between, actually I did, and I forget what the result was, I'm sorry, but we could do a Google Map search of an address in that area up to Allen and compare that to what they drive to Mathews.
But even looking at Google Maps, when you actually deal with real time and the traffic involved in that McCarran area, trying to get across and everything, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Just addressing her concerns about why we would move the students up there. I believe they would spend less time on the bus.
Probably fair.
Last questions for Brett? Cool. All right. Thank you, Brett.
Thanks.
Do we have any public comment items for item 2.02?
Mara?
Is Mara here? Yep, great. Yeah, let's figure out how we're going to do it. Mara, would you like to speak in Spanish? Okay. So do you guys have a plan?
Well, I'm going to interpret what you said.
Okay, so given the interpretation, we'll allow sort of extra time. It's typically about 3 minutes, but I think we'll give you up to 6 if it needs to go.
Desde la otra, buenas tardes.
Good
Desde la
afternoon.
otra
My question
junta
is from last meeting.
realmente somos muchísimos los papás que no
There's a
entendemos
lot of parents that we don't understand.
por qué es la rezonificación.
Why are we having a
Ahorita puedo
rezonification?
entender un poquito más
I
del por qué
understand a little bit more
quieren
now.
que todos los estudiantes, por ejemplo, de
We want all the
elementary
students,
estén juntos en una zona,
be
pero
together in a zone.
habemos gente que nos puede afectar muchísimo
there's a
esto,
lot of people that's
porque
gonna affect us
en
a
nuestras
lot.
zonas
In our
nosotros
zone,
tenemos
we have
accesible la
access
elementaria, entonces
to
esto
these
nos puede afectar
schools.
demasiado
This is
en
going to
esa
affect us a
cuestión.
lot.
En otra, nos
on the
puede
other
afectar demasiado y lo que quiero entender es que
It's gonna
ya
affect
no
us
van a
more.
ser
What I
grupos
wanna understand,
pequeños en los salones, o sea, van a ser grupos de más niños
there's going to be
y se les va a
groups
dar
of more
menos
students,
enfoque
with
por
less
niño.
attention
Entonces,
per
eso nos
child,
afecta muchísimo a muchos papás
and
que
that
tenemos
affects a
niños
lot
de
of
alguna manera
parents.
vulnerables.
that we have a lot of kids vulnerable.
Entonces,
vulnerable to this.
eso es lo que creo que nos afecta a muchos de los papás. Yo
This
vengo
is
de
what,
Kate Smith y
affects
realmente
a lot of
sí me
us
afectaría
parents. I'm
muchísimo
from Kate
moverme
Smith.
aquí. No es muy lejos, pero sí nos
not too
afectaría a
far,
muchos
but,
de los papás que no pudieron venir
There's
ahora
a
por
lot of
cuestiones de
people, a lot
trabajo
of parents that
o
they're
alguna
working,
situación.
they cannot make this meeting.
Otra, el señor mencionó que dice que no
the
vale la
gentleman
pena
mentioned
arreglar la escuela como
it's not
para darle,
worthwhile
porque es una escuela muy pequeña, es lo que yo
it's a
entendí.
small
Entonces,
school, so it
yo
doesn't-
creo que vale la pena porque
I think
somos
it's
demasiados
worth
los
it
papás afectados
That,
para esto.
that it affects a lot of
Tan
parents,
solo
even though it's a
papás,
school-
yo
small
no
school.
tengo ese caso, pero hay
I don't
muchos
have
papás
that
que
case, but
sus
there's
niños
a
los
lot of
recoge, por
parents
ejemplo, la guardería que está
There's
al
a lot
lado.
of
Entonces, esto les va a
parents
afectar
that have
demasiado a
kids
esa
in
gente.
daycare that's right next to the
Entonces, yo veo que esto puede
I
afectar
see
muchísimo.
that it's going to affect a
Y
lot.
otra, esta información, por ejemplo, yo siempre estoy
This
al pendiente
information,
de los
I'm
correos,
always,
de todo esto,
attentive to
pero
all
en
the
realidad hay
information.
muchos papás que por su trabajo o por
But
sus
there's a lot of
ocupaciones
parents, because of the
no,
work
no tienen acceso
situation,
a esta información.
they don't have
Y yo
access
pienso
to
que
this
eso sería
information.
importante desde el principio,
And it's very important
haberlo
from the
expuesto
very beginning to
de alguna manera
understand.
votación en cada escuela que vamos a ser afectadas.
And, all the schools
Porque
that are affected, there
para
should be more
mí,
information
el que
for
me dijeran, van a cerrar la
parents.
escuela de Kate Smith,
They
me
tell me
afecta
they're
demasiado. Pero no
they're
toda la
gonna
gente lo
close
sabe.
Kate Smith, and it was
Entonces,
affected, but
como
I
les
don't know
digo, por
anything
trabajo o por ocupaciones o por...
because of work
No lo
and
sé,
other
pero mucha
situations
gente está
that,
en blanco y
they're
simplemente
blank,
los va a agarrar de
they're
sorpresa
not
esto.
informed about this.
Eso lo entiendo
And that's what I
porque dice el
understand.
Señor que no vale la pena arreglar la escuela. Claro
It's
que vale la
not,
pena.
it's
Y de
not
alguna
worth
manera
it
yo vengo a
to
representar
leave it open, but it
a
is
muchos de los
with
papás que
a
no
lot of
pudieron venir
parents
ahora
that
Porque a mí
cannot
sí me
be here
afecta.
today,
Y veo que le afecta a
to
muchísima
me,
gente.
it affects me a lot. And I'm
Otra,
sure that they.
ya vi que en la Sparks Middle School me afecta en elementary y
Sparks
me
Middle
afecta
School,
en la
it
Sparks
affects
Middle School. Mi
me
niña
in
está en Sparks Middle School.
Middle School.
Y yo pienso también que
And I
esto
think
sería,
that this,
en esta edad los chicos son
at this age,
muy vulnerables
the
al
kids are
bullying.
very vulnerable.
Y en volumen, como lo quieren poner, esto
in a
afectaría
lot
demasiado.
of-
Y yo como
a big
papá,
big
yo estaría muy
classrooms.
preocupada por esto.
And I am very
¿Por qué?
concerned
Porque no
about
lo
this.
están viendo en el sentido de papá, lo están viendo por el
We're not
sentido
looking at
de,
'em
sí, lo
at
académico a
the
lo mejor
viewpoint
puede
of
resultar,
parents.
pero a lo mejor no. ¿Por qué?
We're
Porque va a
looking at-
afectar a los estudiantes,
They-
los
it's
va a
gonna affect
impactar
the-
en que haya
the,
muchos más
affect
estudiantes,
the
mucho más
parents.
en las aulas. Entonces
It's
esto
going to
les va a
have more
afectar.
kids in each classroom.
Esa es otra.
I do want to acknowledge, we have given you a bit of extra time, so if you can
Oh,
quickly wrap up.
Ok, gracias.
Thank you.
Y también
Also,
dice que se van a juntar las escuelas,
You
por
saying
ejemplo,
that it's
de
going
Meeting-Mathews, de Kate Smith,
Meeting-Mathews
porque son
are
escuelas
gonna
muy chicas.
absorb
Pero yo
other
creo
schools
que la
because
escuela
it's
chica
smaller.
da un poquito más
I think that the smaller
de
schools,
enfoque a cada estudiante.
focus more
Yo
on
siento,
individual
como
students.
papá, porque lo he visto,
as parent, I
que-
have seen this.
que esto les va a afectar en
It's
lo
going to
académico a los
affect
niños, porque va a haber mucho
academic-
más niños.
Academically,
Thank
que
you.
va a
I do have
afectar
to
a
cut you off
students. I'm sorry.
out of respect. Thank you for everyone's time. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Okay.
Do we have any other public comment on this item?
No other public comment for this item.
Do you have a public comment on 2.02? Great. So we'll get there in a little bit. Thank you for the public comment. So that brings us to a point of deliberation as a committee. So since this is an item for action this evening, we now have the space to sort of deliberate and possibly take action as a committee. So I know we haven't done this for all of us yet, so this is obviously a space where we're going to have some cross dialogue. So it's helpful for someone to maybe open up the dialogue of what they are thinking about some of these options.
Cami Leray for the record. I understand the size of the school, the small size of the school being important to parents. I do, and I think that understanding how that interplays with the ed spec type of scaling to be able to get schools to have all of the additional services that we want to build into having modern schools. I'm curious about the balance to that. If having larger schools is an inevitability to some degree because of our community growing and wanting to be able to have facilities that provide all of these extra types of services that the ed spec is building into the modernization plan, as one big thing. So I don't know if there's a way to address concerns about school size in this framework, quite frankly. That's the discussion I would like to have, taking on the wisdom of the group.
I mean, I think there's been a discussion at the board level around making sizing decisions of schools and aligning that with zoning decisions. But obviously, we don't have any purview over the sizing of a school. But I think that there are trustees that are thinking, well, maybe those should be more tightly connected and then we should be making decisions. And I think that that is a discussion that the board is having. But we tonight don't have any say that we can recommend to the board for action on these zoning things that inform building size. I think we have to be cognizant of that. We can make decisions and recommendations based on the building sizes that are being brought forward to us. But I don't think we can, that is not within the purview of Zach, right, to sort of, I think, debate building size.
Cami Leray again, I think it's good for not only us, me, to understand that, so thank you for clarifying that for me, but also for everyone who's in the audience who is wondering about that. Thank you.
I think what's harder this time than with some of the others that we've done is that making these bigger schools is not filling the schools necessarily, right? They're still small-ish, but not as small as, say, Kate Smith. And I understand your point that small schools have a lot of value. I've worked at a very small school, and being able to have those connections with all of the parents and know the families as they're coming through. But as you said, that's really on the board level. It's not at our level.
And I think as we heard from staff, like on Tuesday next week, if I'm correct, the Board of Trustees will be hearing a recommendation for Kate Smith. And that is a forum in which the community should absolutely go and voice the importance of that experience. But for Zach, we have to operate under the auspice and sort of direction of what the FMP has guided, which was a community-driven process. And for right or wrong, that is sort of what is brought to us. And I think that is sort of now Zach's responsibility is reacting to and dealing with the FMP and its implications. So do folks want to perhaps open a deliberation around specific parts of the options? And one way to maybe approach it too is to think about the different colored polygons. We could talk about an individual, but I'll sort of see if there's anyone that wants to open up the discussion.
Adriana Publico for the record. I do think that the trainer Sparks, or the rezoning students from Sparks to trainer and back again would be silly. So I personally don't think that 1 and 1B merit too much consideration. I think we need to look at that again when Sparks Middle School reopens or is about to reopen and we have more accurate projections of what that'll look like. But I do agree that the line for Desert Skies should move with the elementary students that are being rezoned.
So what is the sentiment of sort of the committee around the top blue? I think, like, for me, when I look at the admin policies, like, this is the first zoning map that I've seen that is truly an island. And so to me, it feels an obligation to rectify that because that is a clear mandate of Zach of our obligations. And so to me, moving the blue polygon north into Allen makes sense with that sort of objective. And I'm just sort of curious the sentiment of the committee around that piece of the puzzle.
Katie, go for it.
Go ahead.
Oh, Katie Schneider, I think you know my thoughts from my prior comment. Do we feel like academically this will be a good move for the students and their families in the long term, and that the removing the island, maybe reducing traffic is more important than the potential academic impact?
I think Brett said it, where it will change with the students. The more students you bring over, you'll get more staff and faculty and whatever was needed, it will go with the students. It's not gonna, they're not just gonna like drop everything.
And I guess my concern with that is, let's say, because I think it's around 100 students, you kind of peanut butter spread that across all the grades, it's not quite enough to need a new teacher. And so again, we're asking the same teacher instead of 22 students, even though I know the goal is to align with the state of Nevada rules, to take on 25, 26, 27 students. I guess that's kind of my concern, is it's just not enough to tip it over into, let's move all the resources as simply as we say, we'll move a bus from one to the other.
I think it's an aspect that I personally hadn't thought of around zoning decisions. I think I've always approached these zoning decisions that we should think of each Washoe County school site as up to the challenge that's brought to them, as opposed to think about like their current performance and make a decision based on that as a sort of like, well, and maybe I'm not understanding, Katie, is sort of like your point of like, well, Allen are you making the point that Allen is sort of underperforming compared to Mathews?
Yes, yes. And now you're going to add more students into that school. And we know all the teachers equally work really hard, and are we asking them to take on even more without the right number of, even though our goal would of course be to give them the tools and the resources, we know that it's not always possible.
Do we have an option without moving the blue square and keeping it in Mathews?
There's not an option that staff has put forward, but we obviously, as the zoning, the ZAC can make any sort of change.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what that would look like as far as capacity.
So Chris Knox for the record. So the concern is that Allen won't be getting new teachers. Like with 100 kids additionally, you would probably get 3 to 4 more allocations, correct?
But it's not 101 class theoretically, right? It's a couple
Right.
spread across, so it might, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
So that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah. I believe they would get teachers. It just might be, I mean, and that's a question for WCSD, but it might not be, like you said, spread evenly, but they would probably, my guess is, have enough teachers to make sure the numbers work out. Was that, do we have an expert?
Does staff want to weigh in on sort of this topic of deliberation?
Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer, for the record. So based off, we have allocation formulas that take that into account. I can't give you an exact number because I would have to know what Allen is at for allocations right now. But typically, right, you get additional students. You would trigger some somewhere, but where that is, we can't answer that tonight.
Understand. And again, I'm not trying to be difficult. And I can see from the map that long-term, I totally understand it. I just worry if maybe that's in the exact right time to do it.
Kristen DeHaan, just to sort of go with that, underperforming schools are often getting really good teaching. So I do want to say that. Honestly, sometimes the one-star schools, you might get more teaching happening than in a 5-star school. So sometimes I have a hard time with the stars myself.
Totally understand. I don't know how the data's
Yeah.
put together, but it's
Right.
the only one I have. So,
Yes.
yeah, I get your point.
And if your concern was for EL students, I would imagine that the EL, I can't remember what their name is now, facilitator, hopefully they would have more days at Allen than right now. If they're spread out, they might not have as much time, but if there are more students there, they might be able to have more days, which would support the students more.
We've talked a little bit, yes.
Cami LeRae for the record. I see a lot of merit in option 1A. Actually, I like that it addresses some of the foundational standards that we want to make decisions by with regards to eliminating islands. And I think that, as you eloquently said, I think that the schools are staffed and the services are there, and I think that there's merit to that. And like you, that is my assumption. So I do think option 1A has a lot of merit. I like the fact that there's no split feeding in middle school and high school. I think that that's when the bonds really start to forge with young adults. And for my purposes, I like the option 1A. Has a lot of logic, and I would be supporting that.
And thank you. And I think as we think about 1A, are you thinking about 1A too with the amendment of moving the middle school boundary south?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's useful for us to think about that as sort of what is, I think, being debated around 1A is what's on the map, but with the amendment to move that middle school boundary south to the McCarran line in alignment with elementary schools. I also am liking 1A for all the reasons, just to sort of reiterate what you said, and I feel like it is in closest alignment and solves this problem of islands, but also gives us the future optionality around what's going to happen with Sparks.
Really quick, you said that the board, or was it Tammy who said the board is going to talk about Kate Smith next week?
Correct. We heard that on
So it's-
Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay, what are they talking about? Are we making this, saying, oh, what if we made a decision tonight and they aren't going to close it?
So in the very first zoning committee meeting we had at the boardroom, we discussed that your charge as the zoning advisory committee is to rezone Kate Smith students. We have put out the notice to the community. They will discuss it at the board meeting on the 23rd. But realize any recommendation you guys move forward has to go to the board for their approval as well.
This just seems premature.
Can we make a motion predicated on Kate Smith being
Absolutely.
shut down?
Absolutely. You can make that motion, and, obviously the board would not accept your recommendation if they didn't move forward on Tuesday.
And if that happened, you'd come back to us with different options?
If that happened, we would determine whether we even need to reconvene at that point for the Mathews rezoning.
But in the FMP, it does.
In the FMP, it does state that Kate Smith is going to be repurposed. And that's why we are, as capital projects, we're following through on that facility modernization plan. And it's always been in there. We had many community meetings in the neighborhoods for it. And so that's why we're here today, is to follow through on those plans and zoning students appropriately to follow that plan.
So the board approved of that, the FMP,
The board approved the facility modernization plan in December of 2023.
of repurposing Kate Smith.
It specifically had it in the facility modernization plan to repurpose Kate Smith.
So next week, what are they talking about?
It's so that they can have it in a public forum and have that discussion.
Okay.
To-
And that wasn't discussed in December of, when they agreed to the FMP?
So it is a facility modernization plan, so it's a plan,
bigger.
right? It's not a definitive for everything.
it's broken down.
Because there are items in there that are going to take some time to materialize as we lose students to, not having babies born, those kind of things. Things are going to change in our landscape. And so this is one that we're modernizing Mathews at this point, right? We're breaking ground here. So we know this is a definitive project that's happening. So that's why Kate Smith being adjacent to it and stating in the FMP to be repurposed, that's why we're here today.
Okay, back to the polygons. I agree with everybody that the blue island needs to be resolved. Doesn't belong at Mathews. I think Allen is good. That green part is close to Cannon, should go to Cannon, right? Makes sense. I get what's going on with Kate Smith, and it's kind of TBD, but, based on what happens at the board on Tuesday. And then the yellow coming from Risley, that one I don't quite understand where that came from. And I'd like to hear more about that.
Thanks for the question, Brett Rodella, Long Range School Planner. So I forget what slide number, but we talked about the FMP projects to relevant schools. Risley's going to be a trade up, I think, in 2030. So we're expecting changes in that enrollment boundary no matter what. And the Audie Boulevard Road is a pretty clear-cut boundary for us when it comes to looking at neighborhoods and contiguous residences. And its adjacency to Kate Smith, and that it's the only notch that's the only notch that's south of Audie that goes to Risley. It just makes all the sense to us to put it into Mathews.
And you believe that the crossing of El Rancho is better for
In my
students?
opinion, it is. It's better to cross El Rancho on foot than Audie. Audie doesn't have a school zone. I think the only crossing opportunity is at stoplights. I think that's about as much as I can say there. Yep. One more point that I came across today is the most northeast notch of that Risley, that orange square. I charted the distance of that to Risley relative to Mathews. So those are residences that are most close to Risley, right? The difference to Risley is 1/10 of a mile shorter, okay? And I think from that you could surmise that the majority of that zone is closer to Mathews. We'd have to do an analysis to double check, but hope that point was clear enough.
Kristen DeHaan. So, just for my edification, to the right of that orange, there aren't any houses there, or there aren't any kids there? Or does,
To the right is part of Mitchell Elementary School's
Okay.
enrollment boundary. Yep,
thank you.
you're welcome.
And north of the orange is also?
Ms. Risley.
Risley or?
Yeah, because it's over on the other end.
That's, okay, and it's not Mitchell?
Right.
Okay.
One more point, I think the walk friendliness across El Rancho over to Audie, to me, sets the argument that block is most, closely relatable to Matthews. That's one way I think is fair to qualify that.
Could I make a motion?
Would welcome it.
Okay, great.
Do you want the verbatim? You've done this
Yeah,
before.
which page is it on?
Oh, it's on the page, yeah.
Okay, great. I, Adriana Publico, move that the Zoning Advisory Committee recommends option 1A with the addendum of moving the middle school boundary between Desert Skies and Sparks Middle to McCarran, assuming that the school board recommends repurposing Kate Smith on Tuesday.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but it's between Desert Skies and Trainer Middle School.
Okay, do over. I, Adriana Publico, move that the Zoning Advisory Committee recommends option 1A with the addendum of the middle school boundary moving between Desert Skies and Trainer down to McCarran, assuming that the school board votes to repurpose Kate Smith effective for the 27-28 school year to the Board of Trustees for possible approval.
Mia Mansfield, second.
Thank you. We have a motion for option 1A as amended, as well as a second. That brings us to a vote. All those in favor of the motion that has been presented and as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes with one nay. Thank you. That brings us to item 2.03. I think we can keep us moving. I don't think we needed to do public comment after the motion. No. No, it's all good. Thank you for, Neil's not here, so we can, it's a team effort. Okay, that brings us to item 2.03. Presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding proposed enrollment zone adjustments for the 2028-29 school year, potentially impacting the following schools: Roger Corbett Elementary School, Smithridge Elementary School, Edwin Dotson Elementary School, Hidden Valley Elementary School, Donner Springs Elementary School, Kendall DePoli Middle School, E. Otis Vaughn Middle School, Damani Ranch High School, and Earl Wooster High School. This is an item for possible action, which is primarily to allow us to deliberate on this topic, but it is my full intention that we will go to the community in the next meeting to actually take action on this, but we wanted to agendize it as action so that we can deliberate on it tonight. But it is important to, I think, Zach, to go to the community, engage them where they're at before we take action. With that, back over to Brett.
Thank you. Brett Rodella, long-range school planner with the district. We're going to talk about the elementary school at Pine campus. As an outline, we're looking at housekeeping and context. We'll have our options presentation and questions and discussion. So the topic purpose is that Pine Middle School is going to be reconstructed into an elementary school with the intent or purpose to consolidate Smithridge and Dotson elementary schools opening in the fall of 2028. As a result, Smithridge and Dotson will be repurposed. And in addition to this, adjacent enrollment boundary optimization or organization appears appropriate, which we will look at. Quick review of our legacy grades. I saw a typo in here that this goes into effect 27-28. It's actually 28-29, impacting current 2nd, 4th, and 9th graders. Is that right, Adriana? It should be second, fifth, and ninth graders.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So just to clarify that, and again, those students at the 5th, 8th, and 12th graders at the time of these changes will be able to remain in their currently attending school. Our guidance, again, keeping subdivisions and small neighborhoods together, assigning students to the closest school, creating compact attendance zones with few or no island areas. We want to allow for growth and changing demographics, complying with feeder patterns as much as possible, and avoid transportation burdens on diversity subgroups. Our FMP timeline to these related facilities include that elementary school at Pine campus opening in the fall of 2028, Smith Ridge and Dotson to be repurposed after the spring of 2028 as they enter into that new campus in the fall of 2028. And then Hidden Valley and Donner Springs well into the future receive modernizations in 2033 and 2037 respectively. Outline of our special programs with their utilization of portables or not. As you can see, Dotson and Hidden Valley there have 3 and 5 vacant classrooms respectively. And those special programs utilizing those classrooms are to the right there. I did see a typo on the word teacher in the Dotson row. I'll do better. We can revisit this. This is for your reference. You know, if we have other conversations on this, we can chat on that. As far as transportation dynamics, I slimmed this up from the Mathews one. You know, this is the elementary school row there or column summarizes things pretty efficiently. That Corbett piece in red, Corbett to elementary school at Pine will be bused any students that are outside of 1 mile. The purple zone is a complete walk zone, so all those students are in the walk zone. Dotson is in its entirety, which includes the combination of the blue and orange there, will be bused. That South Dotson to the elementary school at Pine will be bused. And then that North Dotson piece, which is blue on this map, should they be moved to Hidden Valley, will receive a bus. And then any students in the green, which attend Donner Springs to the elementary school at Pine, will be bused. That goes the same for impacted middle school. If that middle school zone changes from DePoli to Vaughn, and then the Corbett piece, the red, likely it seems to be rezoned to Damani Ranch, will receive a bus to Damani Ranch. And to get into our options, before we go there, we're looking at the enrollments, the current enrollments in these areas as they are currently. Again, that first number indicates students attending and in zone, so attending their zone school, living in zone. Second number is the total at their grade level attending zone. There's 2 main takeaways from this slide that I think are important. One is that there's 283 students in these areas at the elementary school level attending schools out of zone. Of that 283, 161 of them attend district-sponsored charter schools, which accounts for 57% of that sample size. It's really the intention and plans, frankly, of the school district to absorb a respectable number of those charter schools into this elementary school at Pine. So we want to be planning for that when it comes to this rezone decision. In addition to that is in the green, at the middle school level, you have 25 students attending, that green zone is zoned for DePoli Middle School. 25 students in that green zone attend out of zone. 84% of that 25 or 21 students are currently attending Pine Middle School. And I think the majority of them live in the apartment complex south of Meadowood Mall. I'm assuming they walk across McCarran to Pine. The reason this is significant is I think it adds weight to the value of zoning this area into the elementary school at Pine.
Adriana Publico for the record. I noticed on the similar slide from the other item that there are a lot of students who aren't accounted for in the out-of-zone numbers. Where are they? Or do we not know?
Yeah, we just broke down kind of the highest attending out-of-zone patterns. You know, others are attending other schools, just not as intensely as these numbers indicate. So these are like the top three or two examples of where these students are attending.
And could some of them be attending online and homeschool options?
Some are at North
counted?
Star.
Okay.
Some are at North Star. I don't have the numbers offhand. We don't have homeschool statistics.
But my question is, are they counted in the numbers of students who are zoned? Or do we know that they exist at all if they're homeschooled?
Yeah,
That's my question.
if they're Washoe County School District students or attend a Washoe County School District charter, they're accounted for in here. And that includes North Star, the online.
So there could be more that we just don't know about, who live in these areas.
There could be that attend state-sponsored charters or private schools or are homeschooled.
Thank you.
And to that point, you know, it would be of interest to the school district to bring some of those students into the new elementary school at Pine. So option one, it's kind of our most simple option. It does what the intention of this whole thing does. It combines all of Smithridge and Dotson into the new school, and it takes that South Corbett piece that we identify as being most appropriately associated with Smithridge to begin with, that goes to Corbett, and putting it in with its community school. All day you'll hear that little piece should attend this school for me. It just doesn't make any sense otherwise. Corbett down the line is going to be traded up. It's no longer going to operate as it is today, and the expectation is that the Corbett enrollment is going to move north. And that said, making these kids go even further north is just not practical or necessary. And as far as our guiding principle incongruencies on this, we see none. And that goes across the board for all three of these options we look at tonight, is all of these options we see not violate the guiding principles. Here's a look at the geography change on this. That Dotson and Smithridge enrollment boundaries combine, and that piece, that Corbett piece that's north of Smithridge currently, the black line moves north, which indicates a change from those students going from Wooster to Demonte Ranch High School. No change occurring at the middle school level here.
Right. So the Corbett kids would be going to Demonte?
Yeah, those.
That little.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Katie Schneider, sorry. Which middle school? This would be Vaughn, this whole section?
That's correct.
Or, okay,
Yep.
got it.
And here's a look at the student enrollment projections. The elementary school at Pine campus carries a healthy student body. And no comments on the high school level. Before getting into option 2 and 3, a little brief on the Talus Valley subdivision, which is indicated in green here. That subdivision, I forget the total unit counts. I think it's 2,700 total, 2,750. A lot of it is being zoned, or is currently zoned in Donner Springs enrollment boundary, which is also DePoli and Demonte. Upwards close to 1,500 single and multifamily units are going to be built in that Donner Springs zone. So we wanted to kind of double check to make sure that we're going to be okay as far as Donner Spring goes, and just have the conversation on this. That construction is anticipated right now to occur between 2030 and 2036. We're projecting an average of 22 elementary school students per year coming out of that development, for a total of 153 elementary school students. And that bottom point, we at this point do not anticipate overcrowding concerns at Donner Springs as a result of this. Just wanted to clear this up and put it on the table.
Mia Mansfield for the record. So previously, you had said that they did offer us a parcel, the developer. Whereabouts would it be on that Talus map?
That parcel is in the Double Diamond section of the development, so it's outside the Donner Springs zone. It's, if you look at those marks, those zones as maybe 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 in the far southeast. The third sort of collection of projects is where that parcel is, you know, and that's I don't at this point we're not really too concerned about bringing that into this conversation, to be honest. Like it's not super relevant to the conversation, and that bridge will be crossed if it needs to be in the future. But I appreciate you bringing it up because we are going to have an option should we need it. Option 2 is identical to option 1, with exception to this southern area in green that moves from Donner Springs and recommends that that zone attends the elementary school at Pine. This little triangle is defined by South Virginia to the west, Longley Lane on the east, and McCarran at the north. There's some apartment complexes in the very south end, and doing an analysis on that led to, it showed that all of that green is closer to the elementary school at Pine than it is to Donner Springs. And especially that area that is immediately south of Meadowood Mall, and those middle school students that are attending out of zone at DePoli, walking over to elementary school at Pine, assumably. Strong case for this geography to attend that new elementary school. This is the before and after of those alignments. Just pointing out that Wooster to DeMonte Ranch section of South Corbett is in play here. Dotson and Smithridge combine, and then that Longley triangle moves north to the new elementary school. And the way this is modeled now shows the Longley triangle group moving into Vaughn. Just pointing that out. They would remain at DeMonte Ranch, but per school district preference to keep elementary school students with their middle school peers, we're modeling this to look at them into Vaughn.
Brett Tyler Rogers for the record. Busing question, transportation on the green triangle. So my assumption is that that green triangle is currently giving buses to Donner Springs?
Correct.
And would those communities, you talked a little bit about the walks, people maybe walking from south of Meadowood, but what would be the bus situation for that into the new Pine?
Students south of McCarran would receive busing to get across McCarran at the elementary school level. Middle school, they would attend, should you move to attend Vaughn, they would receive a bus to Vaughn. If they remained at DePoli, they'll continue receiving busing to DePoli. This is a look at the brush fire charts with that option. And as you can tell, that elementary school at Pine campus heats up a bit. I don't have an official stance on this, but this is something this is an option we probably would not advise as a result of those higher enrollments. And moving into option 3, which is our staff recommendation. It's very similar to the previous example, however, this splits the Dotson enrollment boundary at Miraloma Drive, sending the North Dotson section to Hidden Valley and the South Dotson section to the elementary school at Pine. All of those students would remain in Vaughan and then attend their corresponding high schools.
Adriana Publico for the record. How'd you decide to split that zone along that line there?
Just the most clear delineation in that neighborhood.
It kind of leaves a little notch under, or between that red Corbett zone and the orange Donner spot.
Those properties are owned by the airport authority.
Oh,
We'll never
No kids.
probably ever see them develop,
Okay.
yeah.
thanks.
And here's a look at the geography changes there. Main changes difference from the previous slide is that slide, or that line across Miraloma splitting Dodson with everybody else feeding into the elementary school at Pine. Same play with Corbett going south, those kids attending Wooster going to Demonte Ranch.
Mia Mansfield for the record. What are your reservations about having the entire Dodson go to Pine?
Well, we can get to that with the staff recommendation, but the thing this helps with is it allows us, the reason we like this is it allows extra room at the elementary school at Pine to welcome students back from charters, homeschool, et cetera, into that brand new facility. So that's a huge bonus, and it's really kind of the fuel behind our recommendation. In addition to that, sending the North Dotson kids to Hidden Valley helps underutilization of Hidden Valley and helps enrollments there.
Brett, Tyler Rogers for the record, follow up on that. Has the district seen more enrollment from those charters or at home when a new school is opened?
We'd have to assess that. I haven't looked at that, but you know, it's something I can jot down for next month and give you some stats on. And the student enrollment projections with those changes, again, we like this arrangement with the elementary school at Pine campus the most because it welcomes new students in. And in addition to that, it helps Hidden Valley out. And that's where option 3 lands as our staff recommendation. We don't have a recommended motion for you tonight as we were not anticipating going there, though it's on you if you want or not to do that.
Thank you, Brett.
Right.
Other questions from the committee of Brett? Seeing no lights, we did get a lot of public comment written on this one, so thank you to the public who could not attend. We have all that material. And this time we'll open it up to public comment in the room for 2.03.
Fabiana Bach.
Good afternoon. My name is Fabiana Bach. I graduated from Demonte Ranch High School, and I did attend to some of Smithridge Elementary School and to some of Pine Middle School as well. A little bit about me is I earned an offer to play soccer at Harvard University, but I suffered several career-ending injuries. And that really took a mental toll on me, which is why I advocate a lot for young kids' mental health. And I do have a sister that attends to Smithridge at the moment. Once again, when I lost my offer, it was really hard for me. And sometimes it's still hard for me to talk about it. It was like something I I had it all planned out, and I think this zoning situation is really going to affect them. I have my sister tell me all the time how much like she loves her friends, and I would hate for these young kids to be faced with such harsh emotions of building amazing bonds with their friends and then I guess being zoned to a middle school that's not going to be carrying on through their high school. I moved to Reno when I was in the 4th grade, 2nd semester. It was really hard for me because I was going through some personal things. I attended 1 semester in Reno and 1 semester in California since my parents were going through a divorce. And again, all of that just affected me. And I think as much as kids' education is like really important, I also think their mental health is really important. I also think that as far as I know, DePaul is 30% Hispanic, and I think exposing young kids to different ethnics and different backgrounds is really important for them to learn how to get along. It's important for them to learn on respect, and it really does, me being immigrant and having to learn how to bond with people that didn't even understand me in the beginning, it was really hard. And I think a lot of the Hispanic kids currently attending Smithridge struggle with like bonding with people that can help them with their language skills better. And
I'm sorry to cut you off. That's your time.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Antonio Angelo.
Chairman Rogers, ZAC Committee, thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Antonio Angulo Jr. I am the current president over at Smith Ridge Elementary for the PTO. I came here to advocate for our school, and we are kind of wondering a couple different questions. We believe there's no viable option with the current options that are currently set from both a perspective of our community and perspectives of what we were just doing back in April. We don't believe there's any options, or we don't believe there's any good viable options currently for our community. We're still asking the ZAC Committee to facilitate and recommend open discussions to have us continue to have viable options for DePaul. Smith Ridge, DePaul's capacity numbers have gone down, and we have space over there. We don't see any purpose of filling a school like Vaughn to project to another school when Worcester can basically fill everything. All this movement basically is causing a lot of hardships between our community. We don't feel that this movement, we don't feel all this movement is beneficial for our community, as we saw with Huffaker in this last zoning meeting. Huffaker was zoned into slope and put them at a higher capacity back in April. We feel that it is unfair and we would like the equal treatment, and we shouldn't be forced to fill schools in this fashion. So we're kind of asking if there's any options from the ZAC Committee or from the staff to facilitate any discussions for us to go back to the original status of us going back to DePaul. We feel that that is the fairest, not only trade up, but it is the fairest viable option to at least have on as a different options. We're not asking for any recommendations. We're not asking for anything other than to keep everything in fair and make sure that we not just look at it as a perspective as filling in one school to another and basically keeping us as pawn pieces. That is unfair to our community. We're here to advocate that, and we ask for the ZAC committee to at least try to. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Rodri Gilbert.
I guess good evening, everyone on the committee. My name is Rodri Gilbert, and I attended DePauli as well as Demonte Ranch High School. Currently, I work with Dean's Future Scholars. I'm involved at the, I guess, community level with working with different middle school programs, and it can also be applied to high school programs as well. And I'd really like to just get up here and kind of advocate for attending DePauli. I guess to say that my experience with that was a pretty positive one. I mean, as I stated before, working with DFS, the most important time that I've noticed, and a couple of other coworkers as well, the reason why we do a lot of middle school work is that it's very, I guess, it cannot be, specifically applied. I mean, it can, but it's a little bit of a different scenario. But we do a lot of, intervention in low-income communities and stuff like that, especially at the middle school level. But the entire idea is that middle school is a very important time, especially for children, and they kind of form based off of their interactions upon their environment that they're placed in. And I feel as though children that do attend DePauli would honestly, I guess, be at a better, interacting environment. It'd be a lot different, and it'd be, I guess, as you could say, more inclusive, as well as provide a more stability to the community, as this community has been kind of, met with different zoning areas and rezonings and that sort of nature. So I do feel as though that this middle school rezoning, or I guess to stay from DePauli to Demonte, would provide that sort of opportunity. And yeah, I mean, I could get into some, examples, but I do, I have reached out to some kids over there at Mariposa Academy. One of them started just recently at DePauli, this, I guess, close to a couple weeks back now. And he does feel a sort of alienation. A lot of his friends kind of didn't go to DePauli or anything like that. He does feel alone, but, so I feel like it would greatly benefit to keep DePauli to Demonte. All right, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Barb Rodriguez.
Good evening. My name is Barb Rodriguez. I actually attended Roger Corbett for elementary, and I went to Pine. I want to say good things, but I can't say good things about Pine. My life actually started to turn around when I went to Demonte. I actually started caring about school, and I actually felt like the administration cared about me at Demonte. Pine Middle School, it kind of felt like they were just pushing me out. I was on detention or school detention, if that's still a thing, probably the entire time. But anyways, the community at Smithridge is asking for more consistency. I feel like moving our kids around is just gonna mess with their friendships, with the consistency, with the stability. creating bonds and keeping them. When I went from Roger Corbett to Pine, it was already hard because I didn't know anyone. It was kind of, Roger Corbett was split between Pine and Vaughn. And then so I had trouble making friends and I had trouble fitting in. Going from Pine to Damani actually helped. A lot of us Pine kids went to Damani, so it kind of just felt like I knew a bit of that community, so I fit in a little bit. It didn't make it as hard, and I also was able to create bonds with other people that weren't even part of the community. So just keeping that consistency with our community and the stability, I think that's what we're asking for, is just that stability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pablo Nava Duran.
Sorry, so internet. Okay. Hello guys, my name is Pablo Nava Duran. I'm a substitute teacher for Washington School District and a New World resident. And now I'm a neighborhood vice board, Ward 3. There you go. There you go. So last meeting, the board discussed about zoning for a new elementary school at Pine Campus, but the closure of Smith Ridge and Dawson Elementary School. So here are my takeaway for zoning options. So the red one, question point 1, the Corbett spot, so the west area. So I do support moving some Corbett to New Elementary School Pine Campus. It does not make sense to cross the freeway to Corbett and Wooster. So, especially if you walk to Wooster, it can be quite dangerous. So I liked moving those one to Damani Ranch High School. We'll see together as a New World area residents. So if I do make a motion, I will recommend that red one to New Elementary School Pine Campus and Damani Ranch High School. And then the second, and also, since Corbett no longer exists in 2027-2028 school year, I suggest to rezone this one to Smith Ridge Elementary School before when a new elementary school at Pine Campus was open. So point two, so the Millwood area on the New World is a part of a New World area, but they're different McCarran Boulevard. So they're current zone for Pine, but they're zone for DePaul. So I do support those areas to be in New Elementary School Pine Campus rather than going to Donner Spring, because that will save a lot of transportation fuel, especially for elementary school age kids go to Donner Spring. So moving up to New Elementary School Pine Campus and then go to Vaughn Middle School. And that area should be stayed at Damani Ranch High School. So if you recommend those areas to Vaughn Middle School in next year instead of DePaul, that also makes sense. So those areas doesn't have to face double rezoning. And the third, and the point 3, I'm support of option 3, sending the North Dawson to Hidden Valley to fill this enrollment at Hidden Valley. South Dawson going to New Elementary School Pine Campus, I will welcome them to new South Dawson area to the new elementary school Pine Campus. But the problem is the high school, they're the only area to go to Wooster High School rather than go to Damani Ranch High School because, and the Wooster, they're under-unionized. So thank you.
Thank you.
No other in-person public comment.
Very good. Thank you. That gives us some space to deliberate because this is an item for action. So I will open it up to the committee to do that. Anyone want to start the conversation?
Kristen DeHaan for the record. Is it possible to see any of these where Pine would go to DePaul instead of going to Vaughn, or is this one of the things that the district has stated that they must go to Vaughn?
We can request any option. Obviously, this is a topic that we've discussed in previous ZAC meetings, but it is the purview of ZAC to ask anything of staff of other options.
I'd like to see it one more time, if we've seen it already.
I think I will share from past meetings that we had some thoughtful discussion around stability, and we heard that from the community, and I think that it's important for folks that are new to ZAC to maybe revisit the conversations from April because they were robust. Just to remind ourselves of some of the logic that we used for that decision because we knew this was coming. We had the foresight from staff to think about. We knew that Pine was going to change its purpose and Smithridge was going to close, so we tried to factor that into some of our decisions back then. I'm happy with the options that have been presented. I think they present some good things for us to stew on. I am curious to sort of talk more about and get feedback from the community of sending kids back into Hidden Valley. So I'd encourage the community of that to sort of participate in future ZAC meetings because we have had limited participation from that community and this would clearly impact them. Just some initial thoughts on my mind.
Kristen Hahn, I really liked if we were going to be splitting that, having that top part go to Hidden Valley, just to make sure that Hidden Valley has higher numbers and not be quite so frigidly cold on that on that brush fire list.
Cami LeRae for the record. Like you, I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about the transfer of students from charter schools into middle schools after they're built. I think that's a really important factor to take into consideration with all the ramifications that come with increased enrollment. So I look forward to getting that information because I think it's going to make the discussion more robust.
Thinking about timing, and again, this is a question for you, Brett and Tammy, is the design of the new Pine done, or will any decision that ZAC makes inform the design of that building? Since we've been talking about future planning and our impact, just where in that process?
Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. So we are just finishing concept design, which doesn't constrain us. So this zoning decision will help us to ultimately size that school appropriately with that. So we went out to the community with the concepts and met with them and got some feedback of things that they would like to see, but that we are not far enough into the design discussion.
Any other immediate reactions from the committee? Okay, then I think we can close this agenda item. Yep. Yes, Brett.
Thank you. Brett Rodella for the record. I just want to clarify, you want to see options to zone Smithridge into DePoli, correct? Okay.
Sorry, Smithridge is going to close, correct? And it will go to Pine. Yes?
No.
No.
So
Sorry.
our last semester with Zach, we were talking about the Vaughn campus.
Yes.
And at that time, it was decided that Smithridge would be zoned to Vaughn. Pine is going to cease to operate as a middle school for the time being and for the foreseeable future.
Right. Smithridge is an elementary school?
Correct.
Right. And Pine is going to become an elementary school.
Correct.
So Smithridge is not going to close? Smithridge is not going?
Smithridge is going to move into the elementary school
Right.
at Pine, which is right
Yeah.
across the street from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
I think you're asking, like, can you see the future Pine Elementary School feeding into Damani and DePoli? The whole thing?
Or
That's the sort of
or just the Smithridge kids and not the Dodson kids?
Well, I'd like to not have a split feeder if at all possible. I just know that we've gotten so much public comment that I feel like we should see what it would be if Pine went to DePaul. No?
Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. That's the discussion that zoning had in the spring and determined and sent that recommendation forward to the board to make that decision back then.
All right, so never mind.
Can you refresh my memory on where Dodson students go for middle school or are zoned to go?
Dodson Elementary, Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. Dodson Elementary School students go to Vaughn, and they would continue to go to Vaughn.
And if we rezone Donner Springs into new Pine Elementary, they currently go to DePaul, right?
Brett Rodella, for the record, that's correct.
Okay, so that would
And-
be a split feeder. If everything stayed the same, we'd have some kids going to Vaughn and some kids going to DePaul from the new elementary school at Pine.
No.
If we go with option 3.
The entirety, if you went with option 3, the entirety of that elementary school at Pine enrollment boundary, as well as that North Dodson to Hidden Valley, would attend Vaughn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else in the committee? Very good. Then I can close out agenda item 2.03, which brings us to closing items. 3.01, general public comment.
We have no public comment.
Probably you need to get a card, man. Yeah, you can fill out after, Pablo. That's cool, man. Just come do your 3 minutes. We'll give you a pass.
Well, I did not speak enough for 3 minutes because my handwriting, posted email is way too long. So I want to say thank you for the Zone 5 committee to look up the option that includes Smith Street to DePaul Middle School. So I like to support option 3. So I know Vaughn is, my concern is Vaughn is being under-utilized if Smith Street moved to DePaul. And, if you look at a woman of Worcester, I would love to have a Southern Dawson area, the Orange One area, to go to the Monty Wench area, the Monty Wench High School, but if you look at one in Worcester, it did not look great. So the best option is have a new elementary school Pine, go to V2 Vaughn Middle School, and then split feeder for between Worcester and the Monty Wench High School. So for first 5-8 year, I tell whoever new repercussion of Worcester High School, what the design looked like for Worcester High School, and then we could talk about having rezone Southern Dawson area to Damani, or have a whole new elementary school Pine campus to rezone to DePaul Middle School, if a Tyler Valley did not cause any overcrowding at Donner Spring and DePaul Middle School, because Adam look at research how Tyler Valley community can impact enrollment at Donner Spring and DePaul. So if we move Smith Street to DePaul as right now, I guarantee DePaul will be overcrowded. And I know DePaul is a site of 1,400 students, so that's a larger capacity. Actually, it's second largest capacity after Sky Ranch. So the Monty Wench High School, expansion hold a lot more student enrollment than DePaul is. So we could look, we could look NYP 10, 15 years down the line, what the NYP for DePaul will look like. So I will say I will stay at New Elementary School Pine campus as going to Vaughn and then go to the Monty Wench or so split to a high school for first 5 to 8 years until wherever we go for Worcester High School would look like, or design of new Worcester High School. Then we could rezone to the Wine Ranch High School in Newman. If Spawn was overcrowded, we could move them to DePaul. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think no other public comment, right?
No other public.
Very good. All right, so that brings us, yes, okay, sir.
For the record, Antonio Angulo Jr. again. I think we are all lost with this verbiage. I think we're all lost with all these options. All we're asking is basically, even if we have to create a contents to this, there's too much movement. All we're asking is for stability. It doesn't matter if they go to Dotson. It doesn't matter if they go somewhere else. We don't want split feeders. We were clear that back in April. We chose to compromise, and there's just too much movement at this point. We're asking just for the possibility to see everything. Everything is being projected with the subdivision. It's speculation. We can't speculate futures. All we're asking for is the ability to even look at projection numbers. The stability on our behalf is if we continue with back and forth discussion and not have stability with our community, doesn't matter where they go, it's going to create more disconnect between all the communities. All we're asking is basically, if there has to be a sub to meet basically all the needs for everyone, to make it fair, however you guys want to look at it, however you guys want to project it, but there needs to be stability, not just for Dotson, our community, or anywhere else. There needs to be, it can't be just favoritism because of numbers. It has to be looked upon as what is the best fit for the community. Plain and simple. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's it for public comment. Brings us to 3.02, the announcement of our next meeting, which will be October 16th, 2025. Location to be announced, but we'll try to be out in the community. And that brings us to 3.03, adjournment of the meeting. We'll see you all in a month. Thank you.